I just want to cast on all the things. Hello, welcome to Lathe and Loom podcast. My name is Cheryl, and this is a mainly knitting podcast with a little bit of yarn dyeing, spinning, and weaving thrown in on occasion, or whatever other crafty rabbit hole I find myself in. I am coming to you from Eastern North Carolina, and today is December the 1st. So if you're a Happy Advent celebrator, Happy Advent. Today we've got, I think, all works in progress and a couple of more, I guess, tips or techniques. So, but otherwise, pretty standard podcast format. So let's get started. My first work in progress is I've had this on the needles for a while. This is the Traveler by Andrea Mowry, Andrea Knits. So I have the body done, and I am working on the sleeves, and I'm kind of going back and forth. I tell you, I'm at the point where I feel like this, like I knit, and it's never ending. I have had this project kind of on hold while I've been working on the Red Panda test knit, which I don't have today, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I really do want to get this one finished and off the needles. I'm looking forward to having it as a finished object. For the yarn on this, I am using Ramagarn Final in the colorway 4130 is the green, and the brown or rust colored is 4132. I stocked this yarn for I don't know how long online at the Woolly Thistle until it was in stock, and I purchased it last year at their Black Friday sale with it purposely with the intention of doing the Traveler hoodie. So this will be the hoodie version. So I've got to finish the sleeves, which it's really interesting. The decreases on the sleeve, you can kind of see I'm working through. When I looked at the rate that was in the pattern the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I will never finish all of those decreases by the time I get to the cuff. And so I think the first two sets, I kind of did what was in the pattern, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to do this every, so many sections. And now I've been knitting. I'm about halfway through the sleeve. You may knit to a certain length before you do the cuff, and then I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I would have been fine. So anyway, I've kind of gone back to slowing the rate down for the second half, and hopefully it's not too abrupt in there. But I did do tubular cast on. I think I talked about this in a prior episode. I did this little bit of touch of color, which I will do also on the cuffs, and this will be my I-cord color in the hoodie. I had to knit this twice. The first time it was a little, it was all right, but I thought it was a little snug. This is a really, really wide body. Oh, and the eagle eye of you all might see this stitch marker. As I was preparing today, I held it up and I went, oh my gosh, I dropped a stitch. So anyway, caught that. I've done that a couple of times, but it's quite easy to pick up, and then I just thread behind it like a stitch, and then weave that in the back. So, and this is good, really sticky yarn. It's like crunchy but soft. I mean, it's really nice yarn. I would definitely knit with it again. I see why people like it so much. So anyway, so I'm really I'm ready to get this one done. So I think I'm gonna do this as my, I really have put so many things down while I was working on the test knit. So this one has not had a lot of attention, but now I've kind of been, we were away last weekend, and then we've had family in this weekend for Thanksgiving. So I have kind of been picking up, well, I've done some new cast-ons, so picking that up and here and there, because it's now to the point where, like, I know the pattern, you can kind of socialize while you do it. I did want to talk a minute about the I-cord. So I do have a circular sock machine, and I had intended to do the I-cord on it, and I still may look at that just so I know how to do it. But I picked up one of these clever little I-cord tools. And oh my gosh, is the name on here? I am not remembering the maker of this. If I can find it, I'll put it below. I think Size Inclusive Collective is where it's from, if I recollect. But it's this very cool little tool here, and you basically, you've got the yarn started, you wrap, probably won't be able to, I'm not over it. You wrap it in front of the needles, pull, and repeat. So when you get going, it's a little awkward at first once you get going. I mean, I did this in not very much time at all. So I just kind of have that as when I don't feel like doing anything but want to be crafty. And I've got it in a little, I have these like little tamale bags. I find them really great for just sticking stuff in. So anyway, so that's in there. So that is where I'm at on this, and I do hope to get this one cast off pretty soon. Did not talk about what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Stornoway sweater. See, I'm trying to get back to my regular camera, but this alternate setup, but I'm not sure how well this will work. And I'm wearing it excitingly with leggings. But anyway, so this is a pattern by Cheryl Mokhtari of Cocoa More Knits. And it has this really nice textured pattern on it. Has a double folded collar, single on the ribbing, and the tubular, actually it's tubular bind off on the cuffs and the hem. It's quite oversized. Posted on Instagram when I wore it the first time, maybe a couple weeks ago now. I'm undecided on the sleeve length. I think I am going to leave it short though, because what I found is, it's annoying though, my t-shirt would show if I pull my arms down, but I'm finding that just for the white color, I think it's nicer to have the, sorry, not really the best. It's nicer to have them be able to be up a little bit if I'm working on something, so I'm not dragging the white sweater through something. So I think I am going to leave it like that. Let me see if I can tell you any more about this pattern. So I cast this on February the 4th of 2024 and cast it off on April the 8th, and I had a 10-day vacation in there, as well as I've knit it with, and I've been saying this company wrong. I've been saying Cestari. I think it's Cestari. I saw them on a post. It's Cestari Traditional Collection Wool 3-ply in the natural undyed colorway. And I've held that with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in marzipan. So I really like the fabric that it produced. Unfortunately, I got sick about halfway through this. I think I've talked about this before. I was planning to take it on our trip to Ireland. I could not, it was a kind of upper respiratory, and that mohair, like it didn't bother me normally, but being sick, it was making me cough horribly. So just kind of interesting. I knit the size, I knit it on US 8 5mm needles, and I sized down to the size 7. I did not find a lot of difference in my gauge pre and post blocking, or else I didn't write it down. Started that note in there. So it is in my Ravelry page. Really good, well written pattern, good direction. Has a very pretty, this, I think, I'm not sure what they call this, full fashioned increase or decrease, this line here. Anyway, and it fits nice. I mean, it's a big boxy oversized, but definitely liking that project. So that is what I'm wearing. So we were recently took a little trip to Oak Island here in coastal North Carolina. Just did a long weekend. Happened to be my birthday weekend. We did a little fishing and saw some nice sunrises and sunsets. So in the background here, as I chat, maybe I will give you a little glimpse of that. It was really a nice, lovely weekend. The kids were up, so quite enjoyable. But anyway, so I thought, birthday cast on, right? I mean, that doesn't really count. I actually have 11 whips. I counted. So most of them I have not worked on recently, and of course I cast on that test knit while I was trying to finish some of these other sweaters. But I decided I'd been pretty good about working steadily on my test knit. I've got that one temporarily on hold. I'll talk about that in a minute. And I just have been wanting to cast on some of the yarn that I purchased, or with some of the yarn that I purchased in the Woolly Mammoth update two updates ago. So the first pattern I cast on is the Stalk Pip Beret, and this is a pattern by Ailbíona McLochlainn. I am knitting the adult medium, and I'm using the recommended needles, which is a US 6 or 4 millimeter for the body, and the US 4 or 3.5 millimeter for the I guess ribbing for. So here is where I'm at. So this is the beautiful limited edition Woolly Mammoth yarn. And this is the Zwarbles and Blue Texel. That may not show up. But here it is. I hope the lighting's okay. The sun just peeked back out, and I figured it was about an hour till sunset, and I better get on with it. I am holding two strands together, and I'm using Nancy Wheeler from Knit Sip Happy's tip. I've threaded them through a button, and it is really helping keep it kind of manageable and not too tangled. So that was a good tip. And here is where I'm at so far with this. Like my camera is not at a good angle. Sorry, you guys. I'll get this worked out one of these days. Anyway, and I've decided to do the pip version. So the stock version you would leave up. You cast on from that point with an I-cord, and then you do some really pretty, not sure if this will show up in the dark light, but it's got a really pretty increase pattern, and then I'm still now doing the decreasing. This is a really nice, it was a nice, I got it cast on, and then I knitted about half of the increases in the car. It's quite addictive knit, and you don't, once you kind of get the hang of the pattern, you don't need it other than each time you kind of change sections. So I'm hoping I get this cast off pretty soon, because I think it's going to look it's going to be pretty. I'm excited to have it. I love the yarn. I love a sweater in the yarn. We'll see how that goes. But so that is the Stalk Pip Beret, and I cast that on November the 21st. So as I mentioned, that was also my birthday weekend, so I wanted to do a birthday cast on. So I wound up and took my yarn from Blarney Woolen Mill. So I picked this up on our trip to Ireland. It is Donegal tweed. And pure new wool. It's 183 yards per, this is 94 grams in this skein. I think they all weigh a little bit less than 100 grams in there, so they must weigh it when it's damper or something. And the shade is 1FC4727. It's just this really pretty, kind of a rust tone to it. I think it's looking a little oranger. I mean, it's definitely more rust than orange than coming through. So, so that is the yarn. And what I cast on is the Saglan. This is a pullover by Ailbíona McLochlainn. I have talked about it, I think, a couple of times before. So, and I'm knitting I think I decided with the ease I needed a size 4, but I'll tell you what I did. I cast on, and I should put on a cord, but cast on here, and you worked back and forth some short rows. Sorry, I feel like my focus is off. And then I finally joined for the collar. When I was doing these initial increases, it's a modified raglan. So I think it should have a really nice fit. It has it, so you do get this pretty kind of shaped increase through here. When I first did it, the raglan's at the very top, and I went down 1 needle size. So I think the pattern calls for a size, no, it's a US 7. I am using a US 7. No, it calls for a 7. Unless I'm using a 6. I thought I went down 1 needle size. Anyway, point being, because I am a little bit of a loose knitter. So I knit to, I think the first set till the increase rate changed. And it looked like it was not going to sit right, like this was not smooth here. And so I went ahead and stopped and blocked it. And it did block out, so I thought there's no point in continuing if that's not going to, not going to look good. It did block out nicely. But the pattern gauge is 18 stitches to 24 rows for the main fabric. And I'm gonna look at my needle. Well, on here. So I thought I went down 1 needle size. Yes, I did. I'm using a 6. So I already went down 1 needle size, and this is pretty, like, it's not too stiff for the fabric, but like I would not want it to be any stiffer in my knitting. And I was trying really hard to be consistent with my tension, like a little tighter than normal to kind of get to that gauge. And I am off a stitch to a stitch and a half to 4 inches. So I'm getting more like 16 and a half versus 18. So I am gonna have to do a little math now. I've kind of got to the sizes 3 and 4 are a lot of the same numbers to about this point, and then I'm going to have to make a decision on the next set of increases. And I'm also high busted, and short waisted. So I do need to sit down and kind of do a little math. And I'm going to use this worksheet that Devin from Knitty McPurley, I really enjoy her podcast. It's usually about 25 to 35 minutes. She posts each, I think Saturdays now, sometimes used to be Sunday. She's a yarn dyer, so she has some beautiful things. But she went through about 3 episodes ago this stitch gauge switcheroo worksheet. And I mean, I can sit down and figure out the math, but she's kind of like written out all the work for you. And she actually walked through this on one of her episodes. So you can get this for free as a download on her website. So I will put that below. And if you're interested, and I will let you know how that works out. But I'm hoping maybe the math for the 3 will give me the ease of the 4 with that extra in, but a stitch and a half over, it's not a lot of ease in the sweater. I think it's around 4 inches is the recommended ease. So really nice, the pattern has a really detailed schematic, so you can really see for each portion what kind of what you're looking for. Where is the ease? I feel like she said that in here. She does talk about it can accommodate differences in shoulder width and slope, highly adaptable, sleeve shaping, neckline finish option. So there's a couple you can do. I'm gonna do the higher, kind of like a loose turtleneck option or cowl option. She's got, I think it's got a V-neck option, as well as a folded over one. So that's sort of nice. But I really like, yeah, it's got a folded over neckline. So it just looks snuggly and lovely. Anyway, so I'll let you know how that goes there. Just get a little, and I did actually, I was able to, since it's a PDF download, I actually uploaded it as, quote, a project in my, what is this thing I use? Knit Companion. And so I actually just added the worksheet to the back of this pattern, so I'll be able to keep that together with it for future, which is kind of a nice, if you use Knit Companion, kind of a nice tip there. So anyway, so this is my, so it's a little bit on hold because I need to stop and do the math, and I couldn't do that with company in the house. So I will hopefully, but I will say, so being that everything, so currently I was working on, up till I cast that on, was either size 3 or 4 needles. So working on a 7, like you do, 5 rounds and you're like, oh my gosh, I have an inch of fabric, which is super nice. So, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, this offers, and you can go DK to Aran weight depending kind of what fabric. So I'm finding the pattern very well written. There is a little more, I guess maybe it's more of a European style where you do, I've heard this with some of the petite knit patterns as well, although I've not knit one, where you're doing this while at the same time doing this. Don't let that like stop you from looking at a pattern, because what I will say about the way she's written this is she does do a really good detail instruction for those first couple of rows or rounds, and you quite easily pick up what's happening while you're doing this other thing. And it's not complex. It's not, I mean, I use stitch markers to kind of mark off my raglan. I do have, an indicator for decrease or knit, but I actually found I could keep it in my head as well. So definitely a pattern I would recommend checking out, and I will keep you posted as I knit more. So the other work in progress I have, and I really just have some photos, and I'll tell you why. So I have been knitting on the red Panda jumper, which is a pattern by Asita Krebs. And this is a tuss knit. You may have seen it on my Instagram a little bit. And it's interesting, I started off, I kind of just wanted to help out with the test knit because she wanted some test knitters who would use the English version of the pattern. I think I'm one of maybe two at the end, but it has this really pretty patterning around the hem, and then I'm doing the version with the same color work patterning on the sleeve. So I'm about to here on the sleeves, I'm about 3 inches maybe from where I need to start the color work for the sleeve. I have plenty of yarn for the color work, but I needed more of the main color. I think I'm on gauge. She actually said in the test knit that she may have to increase for the other, and I'm doing the size 4, I believe. It's knit on US 3.25 millimeter needles, or at least mine is. I think it's knit on, I think the pattern is 4, but I'm having to knit on 3 to get gauge. I think I talked about this in my last podcast. I did use the knitting machine to do part of the front, just to kind of help catch up. But since I got to this part of the sleeve, I then had to make a decision. Did I start the color work early and use a different color below? The yarn I purchased from Heelside Farms, which is semi-local to me, and a couple of knit groups has been a little bit of discussion. So I'm using their Cormo 80/20 Cormo nylon blend, which is called Winsome. And Carolyn very kindly offered to try to match the batch up a little bit for me. I have enough I can kind of taper in some of the other color. And I had picked up 4 skeins. I'll show a photo here, which I thought at night was perfect, but when I got in the morning light, you can see it definitely is a little more red than what I'm knitting with. So kind of went back, and so the whole sweater went back with the other yarn to see if we could get a little bit of a match there. And if not, what I'll do, I'll go ahead and knit what I've got into the sleeves, and I'll start the color work early, and I'll do the white. The other yarn I'm holding with that is Whispering Pines Shetland in their natural undyed. But the gold and the purple are both the Winsome from Heelside Farms. So anyway, hopefully I'll be back and on the needles soon. I'm anxious to get that off. I will say it's really, I think I talked about in the last episode too, it's a really well-fitting sweater. So far it might be the sweater that has fit me the best of any that I've done. So I'm kind of really, and I'm doing it literally to pattern because it was a test knit. So I'm really excited about that, as well as then to maybe explore some more of Asita's patterns, because like that's just really nice when you find something that fits that well, right? There, so that is what is going on with that pattern. And then the last thing I've really been working on, I don't remember if I showed this in the last episode, but I kind of got, I got the pink socks off of my circular sock machine. So I have a Erlbacher Gearhart Speedster. And I was like really kind of gung-ho, so I cast on another pair right away. And I'm following a little bit of the formula of Marina from Pineapple Yarns, who also has a YouTube channel. And so she cranks her sock, puts in the heel, the toe, but she then goes back and knits the cuff by hand. And I've been trying to figure out how to really learn how to get the socks to fit a little bit better for my calf, which is a little bit larger than I need for my foot. And so what I did on this pair is I cast it on, I think I did talk about this in the last one. I cast on without the heel spring. So there is a tensioner device on the circular sock machine that when you're going back and forth to work the short row heel, you need that to keep the yarn pulled taut. And without that, the stitch is a little bit looser. So on the circular sock machine, unlike hand knitting where you can change the number of stitches or change the size of the needle, that is always consistent. So what you're really changing is the depth of the stitch. And I had it at a really tight depth that I like. I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up on the camera, but this is the without the heel spring. And then when you come down here, if you can see it's a little tighter, that is with the heel spring. So this one is complete. So I had waste yarn up here, cranked this. I loved that I was able to put in this contrast heel. I think that turned out really, really nicely. And then I come down here, and then you would have waste yarn on the toe. I think I had that last time. And then I've since then seamed the top of the toe, which I think turned out really nicely. I actually used the tutorial that Felicia Lowe of Sweet Georgia, or School Sweet Georgia, has just talked about. Actually, I take that back. On this one, I actually Kitchenered by putting it back on the knitting needles, which was really difficult because even a size 1 needle was really small. So I think this is an extremely small gauge. You probably have to knit on a 0 or a 00. But on this sock, and they're not blocked yet, so maybe you can see a little bit of difference, but I don't think so. So this sock here, I did with a standard Kitchener on the needle, standard graft. And this one here, I did with the waste yarn with just the, just the yarn and a yarn needle, which was much faster. So it was a really good tutorial. So that will be, I think, my new method. But I'm really happy with how this one looks. I mean, unblocked at all, but, and then I went back and put the cuff on. I picked up from the waste yarn and put the cuff on. So it does fit. I can pull it up my leg. So I'm gonna, next time I go a little bit longer and see how far I can push that. But so I think that's really fun. And this one I've just got a little bit more, probably 10 rounds of the cuff. I'm doing 15 rounds there. And then this pair will be done. And then I've picked out a really pretty, kind of gold, green, and red, my sock machine's over there, with a contrast green heel, kind of maybe for some December kind of Christmassy-ish socks. So looking forward to getting those done. That's probably, I don't know, December is really busy. Maybe not next weekend, I've got something else I'm doing, but the weekend after that, so. So that is my main WIPs in progress. I have a number of other things that are more kind of hibernating right now, but I'll get back to them. In particular, the other sweater with the colorwork sleeves. I want to finish the test knit, of course. So we should have a good variety of the next couple of podcasts to share some of the different things I'm working on. I got a couple other pair of socks. And I have some longer term WIPs, a habitation throw and a Battenberg blanket that kind of sort of come and go. I like to get my Buracal cast off. I'm about three-quarters of the way through that. What else do I have on? Yeah, so the Richmond Hill pullover. That's it. Oh, I have an emotional support chicken. I'm up to the head. I cast that on a long time ago, and then I've just forgotten about it. So a few things like that in the background. So I'm going to try to do that. I may try to, I've not committed to any gift knits, although I may try to sprinkle in some slippers or hand warmers or something like that. But I guess I'm just a selfish knitter. I'm not putting myself under that stress. How about you? Are you doing any gift knitting for the season? The last thing I thought I would just do a quick little share. I did purchase the Nordic Knits Laine special edition. And really mainly because there was a pattern here from Christian Drysdale, but maybe I'll just do a couple of, flip it a couple things in here. I don't get this as a regular. It's really expensive in the US. I mean, not for what you're getting, but you kind of have to know you're going to use, 3 or 4 of the patterns to make it. And I did purchase mine through the Woolly Thistle, so it's much better than if you're getting it directly. But there's a pattern in here, Nordic Bloom from Caitlin Hunter. I've got a cardigan version as well as a slipover. Let's see, what else caught my eye? Several others. This is a really pretty, not heard of this designer. It's called the Hilda, and it's by, I'm probably going to say this wrong, Ronja Hakaleito. She's from Finland. It's quite pretty. There's a couple of really nice feature articles. One about a mill, which is near and dear to my heart. Anna, I'm gonna try Josvard, a Swedish designer. The sweater is called Erd. Again, probably butchering that, I apologize. A little color work there. See if I can find, there's a nice rib sweater. There's a pattern by Skandir Knits. Really pretty Selbu inspired. This would be a beautiful holiday pattern. I think that hat pattern's in there too, which is really nice. There's a pretty pullover with some just texture, single color. There's a tuku wool slipover. Yeah. I really want to do a slipover. It'll be one of my next random cast-ons in between. I think it's sort of nice to have a few things. I kind of enjoy switching back and forth, and then I'll focus on 1 or 2 pretty, especially as I get towards the end of them. And then I think some that are a little bit quicker knit. So I think a slipover in a larger yarn, I'll probably use Plotalopi as that. So this is the pattern by Kristen Drysdale, who's Scandi work. And this is a modern take on a traditional Fana sweater. It's called Anna's Fana. So let me see which is the best. I think this is probably, you can really see the detail. And Kristen has had this on her Instagram as well. I just think I just love this style. I've seen several pattern versions of it, and I just think I have Kristen's book. It's like an introduction to color work or something. That's not right, but I'll put the name below. So I feel like her pattern will be accessible, and this is knit in 3 trads Strickagarn by Ramagarn, so probably would be something I would try to use that yarn if possible. There's a Tinda sweater here from Sandisgarn. Love that. I love those colors. It's really in right now. Kind of reminds me, Howie Locatelli has that pretty with flame stitch pattern with those colors in it. It's more textured. That's pretty much, so those are the main. There's a few more than I showed, but yeah, so maybe some inspiration to come out of that. I think that is all there is. I wanted to take advantage before the light completely died. I hope this is a little bit better. I apologize. I've seen hit or miss some of what I filmed the other on my computer. The last 2 episodes, I was using the same 4K same editor, but for some reason, either it lags, there's something that I don't think the quality is quite as good. So apologies for that. Appreciate you bearing with me that and coming back. I've had some people tell me, no, it was totally fine. And other places where I've looked at, it seemed like it had a little bit of a kind of a fuzzy quality to it. So I do want to spend a little time this winter seeing if I can do a little more up the ante in my editing game too. So see if I can do a little more animation and stuff. I enjoy that, but it does take an enormous amount of time to edit. It's about, for me, it's 3 to 4 times the length of the video is about what my editing takes. And you want, have all the show notes, and I'm kind of hit or miss on the timestamps because I would actually really like to know if you all find those things helpful, or that's time I don't need to spend. So do you use the show notes? I know I do. Even on my television, I can click over to comments, click over, and I can see the description and read that. It's nice to read along. I do often use links that folks have in there, and I do like the timestamps, so I will try to be better about either going back and doing them or getting them loaded. But I'd be curious to know if that's something that is valuable to you. And then last thing, if you enjoyed the episode today or the content in general, I would really appreciate if you would give it a thumbs up, if you would hit the notifications, and I would really like to have a comment. I really enjoy the interaction with you all, so those of you who take the time to do that, I appreciate that so much. I do read and respond to all comments. Had some new subscribers even on some of my older videos, which is really exciting, so welcome to you all. And so let me know what you're working on, and probably will not record again till maybe record a little closer to right before Christmas, but maybe after Christmas into the new year before I post again. So if you're celebrating, I wish you a happy holiday season, and I will leave you here with that, with a wish for happy knitting, spinning, dyeing, and weaving. Bye everybody.